Well, howdy, y'all. I am Elizabeth Gore from Hello Alice, and it is such a pleasure to be with y'all today, and especially with John, who we'll introduce in a few. But we're here to talk about how our small business owners are doing in this COVID climate, but also this climate of, we think, big opportunity. It's a pleasure to be the co-founder of Hello Alice. We are a machine learning technology that helps small business owners launch and grow. And we bet on the new majority of business owners: women, people of color, our US veterans, the LGBTQ plus community, entrepreneurs with disabilities, that collectively make up this massive population of growth right now in our country. We also think that the new majority are the best economic bet. And our company is headquartered in Houston, Texas, and we're proud to serve 500,000 small business owners in all 50 states of this great country. Most of all, we are proud to be a community of peers. So we call our folks owners versus users, as they every day are working hard to support their fellow business owners with their ideas, with their problems turned opportunities. We'll call those opportunities. I can't even say it. But today we really wanted to get out, John and I, some great data to y'all. Also really understand both the struggles that we might be facing both this fall and going into 2022, but also I think we collectively believe in the massive opportunity that's coming. So John, I'll hand it to you.
Yeah, very excited to be here with you. Thanks for having me, Elizabeth. Big fan of Hello Alice, so very keen to be on this panel with you. I'll introduce Homebase really quickly. Here at Homebase, we help over 100,000 local businesses manage their teams, and over 1.5 million hourly workers manage their work. We're helping them with scheduling, time tracking, payroll, HR, communication, everything you need to manage your work, all in one place, all built for local businesses. So we serve everything from restaurants to retailers, dog groomers, optometrists, the true lifeblood of Main Streets everywhere. Started the company to help some of my friends and my sister who were working in the hospitality industry at the time. And also proud to say that also have the rare distinction of being another tech company with a big Houston presence. So we're coming in hot from Texas
We
today.
were there before Tesla.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what can we say? And John, tell me, we'll just jump right into it, and we get to probe each other with questions. I think it's really interesting how Homebase, way before this kind of hiring crisis, really focused on the human capital side of small business. I'd love to hear a little bit about what it is you do in that area, but also I think you all kind of raised the alarm bell before anybody, that we really have to pay attention to, even if small business owners are reopening or getting back into
Yeah.
business, do they have the talent to get there?
Yeah. So, we help small businesses manage their work, and that's everything. It's the scheduling, the time tracking, communication, hiring tools, and payroll. Every part of, we don't call it HR, but every part of that team experience that you're dealing with as a small business owner. And what that meant is that we had and continue to have a really good view into what is going on in Main Street businesses. And you're right. Unfortunately, that meant we had a really good view early on into just how bad the COVID impact was going to be on small businesses and small business teams. We started seeing that impact as early as late February. Really, before there were any mandated closures, before there was really any big impact. And then, I'll never forget the date because it's burned in my mind, all the way into April 13th. When over 60% of our customers were closed. Really just a traumatic time for small businesses in this country, but also for hourly workers. Even the hourly workers that were still employed at that point were seeing their hours reduced, which in this world means an income reduction.
Mm-hmm.
So really scary time for Main Street, really scary time for small businesses. And they really fought through a hell of a lot over the past, now 18 months. They're still fighting, which I think we'll probably get to. But it's been a really hard 18 months for Main Street. But we're not going to talk about, we won't go straight to that in last year. We'll talk about some of the lessons learned and challenges, but I think we do have some data to talk about 2021. What does this look like now, 18 months in? And I think the first thing we've got is just that view of the jobs and hours worked. So that's one of the things that we have a really unique view into is, are people clocking in? Are they getting scheduled for work? Thing that provides that real-time view of what's going on in Main Street. And here you can see the trend from January. We kind of reset the baseline at January. And what you see is, really incredible growth through the first 6 months of the year. Over 20% growth from the start of the year. Those are small businesses growing again. Those are small businesses hiring. That's people getting back to work. And then you see the impact of Delta variant really start to kick in the middle, towards the end of July. And then some of the seasonal decline as well, which really means a reduction again in hours work, but also business closing again from that early time period of the period of growth.
And John, I just wanted to talk about intersectionality really quick. At Hello Alice, we really look at data too, based on ethnicity and gender and so on. So if you break apart who are the primary small business owners in some of these categories, so hospitality, for example, hospitality and healthcare have a huge LGBTQ plus community of small business owners. So if you look at a community that was disproportionately impacted and then went back up and then back down again, very tough. Additionally, in entertainment, you have a pretty large support system of Hispanic owners. And so that is also in both entertainment, hospitality, and so on as well. So I always like to talk through as well, when you drop the data even lower, what's going on there.
Yeah, that is a great point and a great reminder. I think that's one of the things that's amazing about small businesses is they're creating opportunity for lots of groups that don't necessarily have those paths as easily in other places. And so we should absolutely be caring about the impact. If you care about equality, if you care about equality of opportunity, you should care a lot about the health of small businesses in this country. So we were going to talk about hiring, obviously a huge factor here. We'll jump ahead. This has obviously been a really big challenge for the past 6 months, in particular. One of the things that we were talking about, Elizabeth, is just what we've been seeing in our data. And then, I love all the survey data that you all are collecting, but from our standpoint, what we saw basically from February into April, just a radical growth in the number of businesses hiring as we came out of COVID into 2021. From a Homebase standpoint, we saw twice as many job posts as we had seen in pre-COVID days. Just a real growth in people trying to rehire and rebuild those teams. At the same time, we saw half as many people applying for those jobs. In some instances, the number of applicants per job post were actually down 80%. So that is what small businesses have been dealing with. You've seen the help wanted signs, you've read the articles, no real surprise here. But I think the level of impact on these small businesses continues to astound.
And John, I gotta tell you a personal story on this. I have been in 3 towns lately where I opened the newspaper, and then the chambers of commerce of those towns have taken out a full page ad that says, "Be patient with our small business owners. If you are annoyed with the service, apply here." And I just thought that was just so interesting when you've got businesses even coming together to say, bear with us. That's very personal.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder. For everybody here, that's the least we can do, is be patient, support our small businesses, but also be patient with the hardworking teams, because it's now been 6 months of being severely understaffed and trying to keep up with the demand as people get back to their lives and try to return to these businesses. But you're seeing this as well, and I love the survey data here and both how it's changed.
Yes, and so it's super interesting that again, if you look at demographics, how this tends to go down and back up again. The other thing we saw in the data, very similar, is that if I'm a Hispanic business owner, I tend to hire Hispanic or diverse employees. If I'm a U.S. veteran, I tend to hire veterans and military spouses. So the other critical thing about ensuring that small business owners have the ability to hire is that they are hiring traditionally a diverse workforce. And so when we talk about everyone getting back to work, this is something that we're very optimistic by. And if you see that we've had more folks register to launch a small business this last year than we did the years prior. And so if we walk into an environment where you see this just boom in net new small businesses, we need to ensure the talent is there with that boom. Otherwise, we're going to be, we're going to be a little bit out of luck.
Yeah, I think that's true even of the existing businesses. I mean, we're hearing from our customers all the time that those expansion plans they had, even though they want to grow, they can't. They're putting those on hold because they can't even keep their first location fully staffed right now.
John, what are the businesses that are winning this talent war? I mean, what are they doing? The ones that you actually see either are keeping employees or they are hiring faster than their peers. I mean, can you give advice of things you've seen there?
Yeah, it's the more things change, the more things stay the same, right? Which I think every time we have done the survey of our workers that we serve, never does pay come out as the top variable of what people are looking for. And pay is very real right now, and there's a lot of conversation about it. And that's something that I think the data really supports. Is in this labor shortage, hourly workers are getting paid more. 6% increases in pay for the average lower income hourly worker versus the 3% increases that the general population has been seeing. So there has been real pressure, and we're seeing that in the job posts. We're seeing wage rates go up in the new job posts coming in too. But the small businesses that are winning, the businesses that are winning in this are businesses that are also providing a great work experience. That also really, really matters. That didn't stop changing just because of COVID. And for the businesses we serve, a lot of times that is things like schedule flexibility. It's how frequently people get paid. One of the things that we saw during COVID is even in those early months of COVID, we saw a lot of our customers switch from bi-weekly pay cycles to weekly pay cycles because they knew that
would be the difference making your rent check, right?
Yeah, exactly. That can be the difference on making a rent check, on paying for gas to get to work, all of those things. So as a company, we also focused on how can we help that, and we launched a product to help employees get paid faster. But it's a lot of benefits like that are just as important as the hourly wage here that the business is providing. And I think one of the really incredible things for us is, lovers and supporters of small businesses here, is the other thing that we always saw in our data surveying is that people were actually actively trading off pay increases to work at small businesses. Because of that better work experience that small businesses provide. So, to me, it all goes back to the work experience.
I'll add to, we are seeing, and this generally is something thought of with just larger businesses, but temporary rev share. And so I've seen a lot of, there's 2 ice cream stores actually that this gentleman named Ozzy runs in Sonoma County where I live. And they are coming in saying, this is a short-term solution. We'll see if we can keep it going, but we can do, some of it think of as commission, but actually it's a general rev share at the end of each week. And so I thought that was super interesting, and it's based on the cash they bring in each week. So it's really a team effort. And again, I think that's a model that's generally thought of for larger companies, but super interesting, super interesting. I want to switch gears to your next slide and this next data set that you saw with the break between each quarter obviously is continuing to change. Do you think this is a continuum, or do you think we're going to see another shift?
I mean, it is very hard to predict right now, huh? I wish I wish any of us knew.
If you knew the answer to this, we might
Yeah,
be on a webinar right now and making bets.
yeah. Yeah, we're certainly providing a lot of data to a lot of smart economists and government policymakers to help them try and figure out what's going to happen here. And very proud of the work that we've done there over the past 18 months to help our data inform those policy and aid decisions, to help small businesses, to help hourly workers. When I look at the newest content coming out from the economists and the folks that I read and try to learn from, I think that there's a lot that we do look at as kind of starting to taper off here as we get to the end of the year. I think there have been pretty measurable declines in the percentage of people who are staying out of the workforce because of healthcare concerns. That was very, very real. But now that vaccination rates are going up, that number is going down. So that's great. There were a lot of folks that were staying home because of childcare considerations. That's another thing that we don't talk about in small businesses and hourly workers is there's a lot of folks who are caring for family members here. Over 30% are caring for children, over 50% are caring for family members. So that's a very, very real consideration for folks.
And if I may, it disproportionately tends to impact women-led small business as well. So it is, whether what your opinions are about schools being open or closed and what their mandates are, we'll stick that over here. But it is a huge impact on small business, and so I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I think that was one of the other big milestones that we were looking at this fall as schools returned. Mm-hmm. Did that start to alleviate a lot of the labor shortage? And certainly, mm-hmm. I think in some areas, I think the variables that are a little bit more complicated, the geography question, there are a lot of people that have moved around and aren't necessarily where their old jobs were, aren't necessarily where the jobs are now. That's very real. Immigration, there's a lot less immigration over the past 18 months than there was previously. That's really important for small businesses. And then you had a lot of early retirements, and that clearly is not going to change. So I think you got a lot of different variables at play here, many of which will hopefully kind of taper off through the end of the year into a more normal 2022.
Mm-hmm. Switching gears a little bit, we did a study with you all in GGB, and by the way, we appreciate GGB Capital really always looking at true data about small business owners versus perception. So thanks to Jeff and the team there. But we saw that 90% of small business owners are planning on spending more on software. And very, general software period. And I think of it as digital transformation as well. And that could be around accounting, it could be around hiring, payroll, receivables, all e-commerce. And I think that we are becoming a smarter small business society as it relates to software spend. Where do you think that that is leading small business heading into the end of 2021, 2022, based on the fact that even if they are not spending more in other areas, that they are increasing in this objective?
Yeah, well, I mean, you and I both know it's effing hard to run a small business, and it was really hard before COVID.
We're both still small businesses too, by the way, helping small businesses.
And probably talking to a lot of people in the audience now that are
serious personal experience.
Yeah. But before COVID, there's so much that you have to do as a small business owner, and COVID has really just compounded that. You're dealing with health and safety concerns that you weren't dealing with before. You're dealing with labor shortages, you're dealing with supply chain issues, and you're doing it all with probably fewer people than you had before. That's the reality right now. Mm-hmm. So in terms of the complexity of managing these businesses, what was hard before is nearly impossible without technology now. I think that's going to be true over the next stage of the next era of Main Street, the next era of small business. It's just going to be increasingly hard. Mm-hmm. And the thing that we were talking about before is that level of investment goes up. Man, does the proliferation of technology complexity go up too. when we started Homebase, our average customer had 5 pieces of software in their
Mm-hmm.
business. Now
Mm-hmm.
they probably have 5 to manage online orders in their online presence. Very, very different world that the new generation of business owners are heading into. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious from your standpoint, as you look ahead at this next generation of business owners, and we talk about what comes after this, one, you highlighted earlier that next generation of business owners probably looks different and probably thinks differently.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that you see in 2022?
Well, I am an extreme optimist, and so even after the dark days of the last 18 months, I think 2022 is going to be the year of small business. And I am shouting it from the rooftops that both policymakers and enterprise business services that actually make that larger software have to be ready for what is the new face of small business owners. So if you think about the software we all need, everyone has to do payroll. Everyone has to now do some form of e-commerce. Everyone has to do marketing online. Um, how are business services going to market to these individuals? How are they going to diversify their customer base? Primarily because, again, the fastest growing population are women and people of color. So I think this new normal is actually going to be spectacular because business services and the small business owners are finally starting to come together earlier and for a cheaper cost. And now
Yeah,
we just have to be really smart about marketing to the average business owner now is not the average business owner. Again, if you have thousands of US veterans coming home, how are you capturing them and ensuring that they don't have technical debt later, that they're really investing in that now? How do you ensure that women who've decided not to go back to corporate America, but actually to open their own business so they have more flexibility, how are you capturing them? Hispanics are building businesses faster than any other race right now. So are we really looking in geographies where they tend to be pocketed? So, I am hugely optimistic. What I'm hoping is that we look at small business owners as the best capital bet to bring us back next year. But to do that, we really have to use data like Homebase and GGB and Hello Alice Build to understand the intersectionality of uniquely based on industry, stage of growth, and location, but also based on gender, ethnicity, veteran, military spouse. And I look again at all of that as an opportunity to use data for good on how do we consume information, how do we get new customers, and so on. So I love this topic because I think you never waste a crisis. I think small business
yeah,
owners, even those who had to shut their doors, are already reopening, but in a smarter way that's more savvy. I'll also just say that I'm really proud that the new administrator of the SBA, Isabel Guzman, is really thinking about not just capital that small business owners need to survive, but already how do they grow? So that the Restaurant Revitalization Act, I think, was super smart. I really encourage restaurant owners to look at that, apply for it. I think you're going to see other industry specific capital coming out, which is, I think, very critical. But also attached to that are those that continuum of care and learning cycles. So yes, you have the Revitalization Act for restaurants, but also the National Restaurant Association ensuring that they're coming back better. If you look at Black business owners, there is stimulus money specific to registered minority owned businesses, but you have like the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council ensuring they're also getting supplier diversity contracts. In the NAACP, ensuring that there's advocacy wrapped around these groups of individuals. So I think that we all got broke down all the way down to barely surviving, but now we're building back up in a really smart way. And next year is going to be a gangbuster year. So I'll say one more thing, John, if I may, and that's I
yeah,
want to talk about credit for a second. So I think equitable access to credit is the new $43 billion opportunity for small business owners. We're talking this week, we're releasing new data that last year, small business owners of any ethnicity that applied for a financial product and got declined and got zero, and they actually were credit worthy, quote unquote, was $43 billion worth of money. And to me, I see that as a massive opportunity. And even if you right size for credit score, it was still around $40 billion. So I am urging right now institutions to relook at data sets for equitable access to credit. If I'm a Black business owner, I was 2 times denied, Hispanic almost 2 times, and so but collectively, this is I think just a massive opportunity, and so equitable access to credit I think could be the new frontier on financial products. And particularly if we're looking at combining them with software like Homebase and like Hello Alice, that we're not just ensuring capital, but the smart use of it along the way, I think is a massive opportunity for investors thinking about the SMB software and fintech space.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Elizabeth, because one of the things that always jumps out to me, and I really do love the Hello Alice surveying, and one of the things that always jumps out at me is the most important thing that the business needs help with. It's funding every time. Isn't that right? Yeah.
Yeah. And no matter your ethnicity, no matter where you are, and as a small business owner myself, that never goes away. I mean,
Yeah.
even when you grow, you need more funding. It's just one of those things. And so, yes, our access to capital is far and above the largest need for our small business owners. Right now, with business owners under 50 employees, they're even looking at the need for a $10,000 grant. And that's not a emergency capital at this point. Now it is kicking them back into operational capital, and hopefully it'll move them into growth. So I do think we're going from emergency to operational and then hopefully back to growth, but
Yeah.
that need is extreme. I also think that the survey point that we've seen, customer acquisition is starting to catch up with access to capital, which to me is the best way to access capital is from your customers. But that also shows the boldness of small business owners. They're starting to spend not just time on their cash flow, but also how are we bringing customers back, and that
Yeah.
makes me pretty darn optimistic.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the optimism. First, back to the survey. How are the small businesses feeling?
Like you said, the Delta variant, I think, freaked everybody out.
Yeah.
We all dipped. I did too in our
Yeah.
optimism, but it is starting to come back up again. Also, I want to be clear that every demographic has a different level of optimism right now, and so it's important to look at the data. If you'd asked me a month ago, I would have said it's in the toilet again. We're worried. People, small business owners had held on spending capital. However, I do think that it has made us all a little smarter. I think we were all so ready to get out there and acquire customers and reopen and hire that this has checked us a little bit. And now we're actually going to be even smarter going into 2022.
You mentioned optimism. Speaking of optimism, what are you optimistic for 2022?
Well, I will scream from the rooftops that I think 2022 will be the year of small business. You never waste a crisis. We've all been through a really tough time, but I think we've gotten smarter. We're spending more money on software. We're going through digital transformation. I think we're going to see. This week we heard from Administrator Guzman and Chairwoman Waters that we will see more money coming out for. Right now, I would say it's operational capital, but hopefully growth capital for next year. We're seeing millions, almost billions of dollars in grants coming out from enterprise business services. But most of all, these small business owners, they're ready to roll. They're hiring. There's some optimism there. And I think they're going to be smarter than ever. And John, I know you're an optimist as well. I want to throw that back at you as our closing comment.
Yeah, I absolutely am. I mean, it's been a tough 18 months for small businesses in this country. They have fought through so much and still need our help and support. But one of the many things that I love about small businesses is, man, are they resilient? They just keep on fighting and pushing forward. And as I look at 2022, I am optimistic for them. I'm optimistic for the impact that's going to have. Over the last decade, 2/3 of job growth came from small businesses. I think you're crazy if you think it's going to be less than that over the next decade. This is where growth is going to come from. It's going to come from all across this country. And it is a really exciting thing. There are lots of reasons why small businesses are coming into a new era of Main Street. They're going to be running their businesses differently. They're going to be managing their teams differently. They're going to have access to help that they never had before. It's going to be a great time for small businesses.
Agreed. And I'll just say in closing, I think the reason that Homebase and Hello Alice and GGB Capital do so well together is we really believe in the American dream here, and that to really push our country to be back or better in a new normal, invest in small business owners. Not only are they the lifeblood of our country, but they are truly the best economic bet. So on behalf of John and I, we really appreciate y'all. Thank you, GGB Capital, for hosting us. If you have ideas about small business owner, or you are a small business owner, please connect with Homebase or Hello Alice. We're here for you, and thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.